REMARKETER. Empowering Realtors.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining me today. So my discussion today is going to be on two of our modules that are related to financial management of your business. It's an important factor of the business. You need to be able to keep track of your income and expenses in your business and be able to make sure that they are justified, especially when it comes to strategizing for your marketing spends, as well as preparing for even filing your taxes. So we are getting close to that point in the year where you're going to be worried about your taxes. So I thought it would be a good idea to have that discussion today and show you some capabilities. So if you haven't been using these modules until now, you might start now, and this can definitely help you a lot for your next year's tax season. However, I'm sure you all have some set up for your finances. The very basic would be to use things like an Excel sheet to keep track of your income and expenses, and that's pretty much what the essential of your tracking your business. You need to have a ledger, and that's essentially what it is. Some of you might even be using more sophisticated software for accounting and taxes. So what I'm going to be presenting to you today is two modules that are integrated into REMARKETER, making it easier for you to keep track of your income and expenses. In other words, preparing that ledger that you need to have. It is not an accounting software, but it would definitely set the ground straight for you to be able to keep track and be able to prepare the input that's required for your taxation. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have, and along the way, I'll show you some of the benefits of utilizing these modules in your system. All right. So the two modules that we'll be talking about today are under the business tools here. We've got an accounting module, and then we have a financial analysis module as well. So these are the two modules that we'll be looking at. However, they're integrated into a third function of the system, which is transaction management. So that is also part of the system that's accessible under contacts and listings. So I'll show you all of these, and I'll show you how the connection works, and then I will show you the outcomes, which would be what you would require in order to manage your business better, financially speaking. All right, so let's start from the top using on Listing Manager. You're going to be able to click on the Actions button for a specific property and click Edit. All right, so once you're in Edit, you can see that there's a tab here called Transactions. And then we also have a tab called Accounting. So you can see that these two are integrated into the Listing Manager and for every listing. So that's one thing. Let's now go to the Contact Manager. Let's just edit any of the contacts here. Again, you can see that we have a Transactions tab here, and then we have an Accounting tab here. So again, the same two are integrated into the contacts here as well. Let's now head out to the accounting module here. So the accounting module is pretty much the ledger. What a ledger is just a list of expenses and income with the categories and the dates of those transactions happening. However, the difference here is that you can not only keep track of your income and expenses, but you can also attach each one of those income and expenses to a client or a property here, as you can see. So that's the difference here. That's the additional capability that you have with this ledger, working with this ledger in comparison with any other software that you might be using. So this is integrated into your business management console. This is integrated into your marketing console. So you have that information there. You have the information about your clients. You have the information about the properties that you're dealing with. So these are already available for you to connect to each one of these transactions, and therefore it gives you the ability later on, we will see how to be able to measure ROI, to measure income and expenses and your balances per client as well as per transaction or per property as well. So you've already seen the connections there. I will now demonstrate for you, and then we will see how things will shape up. All right, so I'm going to talk about two different scenarios for you. Let's go to Listing Manager. The first scenario is that I have a property listed and sold. So that's one scenario. And the other scenario that we'll be looking at is a property that's listed and not sold yet. So we'll take it step by step. So initially, when you do what you would do is that you would list the property and then start spending money on that specific property. So the property that we're going to demonstrate on would be this one. Let's say 73 Frost Court is the property that I have for sale. And on the other hand, under Contact Manager, I have a seller test, which is, let's imagine that this would be the owner of the property, the current owner, the seller, right? Who is my client. Okay, so I have these two sets of information already available in my system. So I have the contact, who's my client, here. Let's go ahead and configure it. Edit. So under profile, this is what I would have. So basically, this person is a client and is a seller, right? He happens to also be in the market to purchase a property. You can also mark buyer as well. So that's okay. I don't care about the rest of the information here. So just to make everything seem right. So this is my client, and that is the property that we have to sell. All right. Now, before you sell the property, you start spending money on advertising and marketing the property, right? So those are the things that we will have in place at the very beginning. So let's go to the accounting module and let's start adding records. So this is what happens in real life. So for example, the first money that you spent on this property was for preparing the virtual tours. So let's say I spent $450 on, let's say, virtual tour, yeah. The category would be, we have different categories here. We have photography, we have staging, we have equipment, marketing. So let's go ahead and categorize this under photography. So that's the amount of money that I've spent for the virtual tours and the photography of the property in order for me to be able to list on MLS. Now, this other two pieces of the information are also available here. I can now select a client. So that's my client and the property. And I can go ahead and save this. One other thing is that I need to also set the date as well. So I didn't set the date. Usually might have happened before, but let's imagine it happened today. But you could definitely set the date there as well. All right. Now that I added this record here. Let's go back into Listing Manager and check out this property. Under accounting, you can see that $450 has been added as money that's already spent on this property. And if I go to Contact Manager and I look at that client of mine, again, you can see that $450 has been spent working with this client. So you see how the connections are working. I'm adding a record to my ledger, but that record is also getting connected to my client as well as the transaction that I'm hopefully making. All right, so other expenses happen as well. Let's say I have the open house now, right? So I spent $150 on, let's say, feature sheets or catalogs. Let's just call it feature sheet for open house, right? So that would be a marketing expense. That's my client, and that is the property. Then I spent some money on refreshments, so that's another amount. So let's say I spent $45 on refreshments for open house. So that's again a marketing expense. Then I can go ahead and select my client as well as the property again, so on and so forth. So you can see that I'm adding my expenditure to that property as well as the client that I'm working for. Let's even imagine that I take my client out to have a meeting with, and we go to a restaurant and I pay for dinner. So that's a business expense as well. So let's say I spent $120 meeting dinner, and that's an entertainment expense. Again, connected to the client as well as the property. So you can see that I'm just simply adding expenses as I go along, and that's pretty much it. It's very easy, very simple, and you don't really have to worry about anything else. It's pretty much seamless from then on. So let's go to the listing manager. Let's check out what's going on with the property right now. So at any point, you could just come here and go to the accounting and see how much money in total you've spent on this specific transaction. So this makes your life a lot easier in order to be able to quickly assess what your cost has been for this transaction so far. You can even want to see how much money you've spent working with a specific client. You can even see that right here. So now in total I've spent $765 so far. So there could be a second open house, there could be other fees for marketing here as well. For example, I might be spending some money on let's say Facebook advertising. I did a video, that's $700. I made a video for, let's say, Instagram, that's marketing. And then I also spent some money for Instagram advertising. I spent, let's say, $200. Just like that, right? So that's another marketing expense for this client and this property. So as expenses happen, you just enter them into the system. By the way, they're also available, this accounting module is also available on the REMARKETER app. So if you haven't downloaded the REMARKETER app, go ahead and download it. You can also wait a couple of days because we're going to have a new version coming in as well in these coming days. Anyways, Let's go back to the topic. Again, I can check this out, and I can see, for instance, at this point in time, I have spent $1,665 on this property so far. How much money I've made? Nothing yet. All right. So this is how I'm going to track these expenses here. Now, let's check out Listing Manager as well. So let's also imagine that with the same client, I also had another property that I had sold before, right? So let's say I've sold this property, I'm preparing to sell this property. I'm also purchasing a property for this client, right? So this one is already sold. So there would have been some expenses already associated with this property. But as soon as the property is sold, this is what we're going to be doing. So edit. Sold price is $1.2 million here. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to put in the sold price. Then I can add the commission that I earned. This was an exclusive listing. Let's say I earned 1%. Let's say my deal with the seller was 1% here. So my commission, my side of the commission would be $12,500. That's 1% of the sold price. Now, the closing date, let's imagine the closing date would be April 4th. All right, so that's the closing date. And I'm going to add that in here as well. What is the transaction type? I've sold it. Did I purchase it? Did I lease it? Did I assign it? So all of those can be configured in here as well. So I have sold this property, and that now I can also select the client. Well, that's because this property is not configured. That's a non-MLS property. We're going to do it for the same property. Let's imagine that now I've sold the property. Before going there, let me just double check something here. Okay. So now let's imagine that this property sold. So what was the sale price? Where were we? 959. Let's say that it sold for $1 million. So I'm going to go to transaction. So price is $1 million. My commission is $10,000 there. Closing date May, sold. Sorry. Server test. Oops. In the database, and that is because my colleagues are doing some updates there. So I do apologize for that. I'm not going to be able to add the transaction here. We'll have to correct that on the system, but I'll show you how the transaction is going to look like. So once the transaction is added, it'll be added as a record in here. So I can see that the transaction has been added right there. So for instance, here with this client, I've had 4 past transactions. So every transaction that's added, we're going to be able to see those transactions in here. And I can see a total earnings in here as well. So I can see each one of the contacts. So there could be other contacts here as well. Let's just find a few more transactions. So with this one, I've had one transaction, total earning $13,000, for instance. And then I could go into the accounting module and I can see how much money I earned and how much money I spent. All right. So now the only thing is that at the time that the closing happens, you will also have to add the fees that you pay as well as part of the commission. So what you would do is that you would put in your gross amount for the commission. So that's $13,000 on this transaction. But I also paid desk fees. I also paid referral fees. I also might have, brokerage fees. So anything that applies would then be deducted from that. So don't put in the net amount of your income, because you have to also report all your expenses. So you would go with the gross income. So that's your full 2.5% or whatever your deal is with your client. And then you would also have all the deductibles. So any desk fees, any brokerage cuts, anything that would then be reduced, which is reported on your income slip, is going to be deducted from the amount as well on the closing date. And all of this will happen on the closing date. So this is how a transaction would look like, and you're going to be able to record multiple transactions for a specific client. So for every client, so let's say, for example, here, if I go to this one, that I've done multiple transactions. Was it this one or was it a different one? Here, that I have multiple transactions. I can also see my total earnings as well as my total expenses over the years working with that specific person. So all of that can also take part here as well. So you have full view of your transactions. You have full view on your income and expenses, again, per client as well as per transaction. Now, if we go to the financial analysis module down here under the analytical tools, everything would be put into perspective for me right here. So this basically reports all of the information that I have available in my ledger under accounting in this graphical fashion. So I can easily see what's going on with my business finances. At the very top, we have this year's income. So any income that has actualized. So all of the income that we've already received is going to be added up in here. We also have year-to-date expenses. So these are all the expenses that I've made so far. So now you can see at any point of time how much money you've spent so far on your business. Remember, in your accounting, you can add all your general expenses as well. So for example, you can add your licensing expenses, your insurance expenses, your car maintenance, your gas expenses. All of those can be added in there as well. Let me show you something. Let's say, for example, you renew your license, right? So you pay $450. Let's say for RICO renewal, and that is a licensing expense, and it doesn't have to have a client or property attached to it because it's irrelevant. It's a business expense, but it's not related to any specific client or any specific property. So you don't have to add those in. So at the time that you pay that amount, you can just pay that in, and that would be reflected in your expenses right here as well. So you have all your business expenses added as they happen. So as soon as you make any business expenditure, you just add it to your accounting module. You just add it to your um, uh, ledger right there, and it'll be added up right here. So at this point of time, I know exactly what's going on with my business. So my net income before tax is also calculated. Remember, it doesn't do your taxes for you, but it actually provides the documentation that you would require for your taxation, and it's going to save a lot of time for you to prepare those files that you're going to be sending out to your accountant, which I'll show you how. The next item that you have here is your marketing to income ratio. So that's a very important factor in your business financials to monitor, and it's how much money you're spending on marketing versus how much money you're making. So this is showing you the breakdown right now. So if you have a target for this, if you have a target to spend, let's say, 10% of your income on marketing, then this is the number to monitor. And it usually starts from a higher proportion, and then it should adjust itself to your target over time during the year, because obviously at the beginning of the year your income is lower, but your expenditure might start high, and then as your income grows, it should adjust itself. So this is a very important number to monitor, and it should be a healthy number. So if you have like 1% here, that's not a healthy number. So you're not investing into your business as much as you can. If you have 55% here, that's a huge number, and you should really revisit your marketing expenditure. It really depends on the stage of your career that you're in as well, but it would still need to make sense. And that's why what we do here, what the system does here for you, is that it takes out all the expenses that would be considered a marketing expense. So all those virtual tours, photography, all those AdWords, Facebook advertising, promotions, and print material, anything that's marketing related is going to be added up and then compared to your income, and that's the ratio that is going to be reported back to you. So depending on your goal, on the stage of your career, as well as the healthiness of the market, the business, etc. You might have a number in mind that you want to constantly monitor, and this is going to do that for you. You also have a benchmark from last year. So your total income last year was this amount. So if that's your benchmark that you need to beat, you would definitely have that available here for you to constantly monitor and see. You also have a tab here that shows you the income to receive next year, because sometimes the closing dates are next year, or even if you're doing pre-construction projects, that the income would be deferred to the coming years. You're still going to be able to receive, view those as well. So this way you're going to be able to see how much money is coming next year as well, and you can plan ahead accordingly. Down here, we have a pie chart that shows you the income by transaction type. So how much money you've made selling properties, purchasing properties, leasing, assigning, or on your pre-sale project. So all of those can be configured and can be reviewed here as well. The next pie chart here is about your expenses by category. So here we have the business expenses. So those are your licensing fees, your desk fees, anything that relates to your business. Then we have marketing expenses. So how much money you're spending on marketing. So, printing flyers, virtual tours, Facebook advertising, those kind of things are marketing. Then we have commuting expenses, so gas, car maintenance, car lease payments, plane, train, TTC, whatever. So those are all commuting. Gifts and entertainment. So you take your clients out to a restaurant. You have a Christmas party for your clients. You have you give them gifts. Those are included in this category. Communication is important. How much money you're paying for your cell phone, uh, your subscriptions. Those are the kind of things that are going to be reflected here, and then other expenses as well. So you have a full perspective of what's going on in your business, different categories of your business expenses. Then we have monthly income and expenses. So here you're going to have the month by month income as well as expenses. So usually in your world, real estate agents world, income happens in bulk. So you might have zero income in March, and then you have some income in April. So that depends on when sales or purchases are happening, unless you have a lot of small businesses going on at the same time. However, this reports your income, and then you can see your expenses as well. Usually what you would want to make sure happens is that you want to have a steady amount of money spent on marketing. That might spike at times as well, but should never go down to zero. You should always be spending money on marketing. If it's not on a specific property, it should be on you and on your brand. So that whatever you have set aside for your marketing budget, and whatever strategy you have on spending that money, it should be reflected in here, so you can see how much money you're spending, and then in general the returns on the investment that you're making over there. The next box here shows you the income by client, and this is for all years. So this is for everything that you have, and you have all the clients that you've ever done business with, and you have all the income and expenses added up. So you have how much, you have the list of all your clients with all your earnings like to. So you can see, who's your top earner. So who's the person that you have made the most money working with, going down the list with, for all the other clients that you have worked with. So this can always help you see where your money's coming from. If you want to appreciate someone, if you want to send a gift, for instance, if you want to contact them for further business, etc. So this is also provided for you here. Now, going back to the accounting module, I want to show you this feature as well. You can also extract income statements at any point of time. So you just click on that button at the top, and it provides you with the income statement so far. So this is your income statement of the year so far. You can also go to the previous year. So let's say I want to do the 2022. So that's the income statement for my 2022. How much commissions I earned, and if I had any other earnings, like consultancies, referrals, other income. So any other thing can be here as well. And then we have all the expenses. And then I have my net profit right here as well. So that is my income statement. This is the sheet that your accountant is going to be able to use in order to do your taxes much faster and easier. And obviously you can print it and email it if you want to as well. So that is one other option that we have here. You also have the ability to import and export records from your accounting module here as well. All right, so that's pretty much it. To just recap, all you would need to do is you need to add records to your ledger under accounting, and then associate that with your clients and properties if it applies, and then just reports. Everything would be available. Once the property sells, you would have to go into Listing Manager and add a transaction in there. By the way, if you purchase a property, you can also do the same thing as well. All you would need to do once you purchase that property is to click on Add New and add that property to your Listing Manager, and then go ahead and add the transaction. Or If you don't want to do that, you can just simply go ahead and add a transaction here to your contact. So, if I go to this contact, for instance, and edit, I can select add new transaction under actions. Here, I can just simply put in the MLS number, address, and city of that property. I don't have to add it to my listing manager. I would like to include it in my listing manager as well. It makes it a little bit easier for me to reference to. However, you can just simply put in the information of the transaction, the purchased property, and that would be, the transaction type would be purchased, for instance. Again, you have the same things: closing date, your commission, and the sold leased amount, and that's it. You can just save that, and that would be added as a transaction for this client of yours who happens to be a buyer client. All right, so that's it. I don't see any questions on my side here. If anything comes up, please reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to hear from you. Again, I do apologize for the error that we saw here. It definitely is because we're updating the contact manager module, and something hasn't been configured correctly. So we'll have that rectified immediately. So you shouldn't have any problem using this yourself. If anything, please let us know, and we will definitely be on it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, and I'll see you again next time, same place, same time.